Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's special selection comes at us from Alex. Gorgeous post-black metal from Italy with wonderful clean vocals. 2023 album of the year for them. We're going to be looking at the group Deadly Carnage with the album Endless Blue. The track in question is number 2, Sublime Connection. Let's dig into it and see what Deadly Carnage is bringing to the table today. Very interesting sounds. The drumming is really nice. Adds so much character to what is predominantly just shaping out chords on the guitars. If we focus on the accent points of the guitars, we get a quasi-melody out of that, slow moving one. The drums, so good. Okay, that was nice. love when the vocal line and the guitar hit the same pitch at moments, really hold them out, and then one drifts away from that core note. Those side vocals are mixed a little too prominently, but I think it works. I think it's just, I'd have to get used to it. Okay. Got some whale sounds here. I'm I want to get into the lyrics immediately. Why do we have whale sounds at the end? I know we have whales in the album art, or a whale, but I honestly thought when this was over, I was only going to have to talk about one end of the song, the end of it, you know, what's going on with the whale sounds. But, sorry, only one thing to talk about would be the beginning. It comes in rather sharply, and that's because it's a direct continuation of the first track. I knew that coming into it. The requester had mentioned it, um, and I wasn't expecting it to be as abrupt. I kind of makes me wish I'd listened to the first one as well because it feels like we just come into the song at like 11. Blast beats, vocals, 16th note picking, like from beat one, the song is already going, and that makes it feel like I got thrust into the middle of something. So that's a bit of a shame I chose not to do that, but yeah, I try to adhere to the. I don't want to make exceptions because then people start asking for exceptions. Technically, they're two connected songs. You should do them both, but one song per request, unless the creators have explicitly stated that it's part of a suite. But yeah. Anyways, I thought that was going to be the only thing I had to explain was just being thrust into the song, and then I have to explain the other end of the track. What's going on with that? Oh man. Like I said, I want to get into the lyrics for that reason alone. Because, like, the album art's gorgeous. We have this beautiful whale jumping out of the water, stylized clouds, and a sun piercing through it. But I wasn't expecting whale sounds in the song. Alright. So this was not what I expected. Post black metal can go in a lot of different areas. That's the whole idea of a post genre. We've moved beyond what the original did. The same thing happened with post hardcore, post punk, post rock. Now we have post black metal. The ideas of black metal are still here. There are a hyper focus on 16th note ideas, whether that's from alternating snare and bass, or blast beats, or 16th note picking from the guitars and bass. There's an emphasis on chords and atmosphere over melody. But past that, we've taken those ideas and recontextualized them into something different. Much of the low to mid-5 production is missing here. A lot of the fuzz on the guitars is missing here. And most prominently, we have clean vocals instead of shrill harshes. You can certainly feel how this evolved out of black metal, but it is very clearly not blackened and only adjacent to metal. This is a very light, palatable sound on the metal scale. Though I think I would definitely call this metal based off of the drumming and guitar timbre overall. They are a bit on the aggressive side. But melodically, vocally, I'd say rock. And we certainly have some rockier sections in here as well, such as the middle part of the track when we shift over to the clean electric guitars and the more melodic drumming, which is probably where I want to start. It's bookended by the metal, right? I already kind of dissected what's going on there. We have melodies coming out of the vocals, a lot of 16th note ideas coming from the guitars. The drums are alternating between blast beats and alternating bass and kick. It's just a lot of intensity all the time. Half of it is purely chord based, where it feels like the guitars and bass sit on a single note for however long they do, and then they change to another note, and they change to another, and they move along with the chord progression. Though there were some moving ideas in here. Again, though, moving ideas across these 16th note concepts. But in the middle of these two ideas is this middle section where everything kind of gets brought down a bit, and I absolutely love this part. The guitars shift to shaping out chords. This is a way that I describe playing individual notes of a chord without doing something melodic. So instead of on a guitar, you would make whatever chord shape you need to make. You'd hold down all the notes on the chord, and then you just strum them all together and you get to hear the full thing. When you play chord shapes, it's sort of like outlining the chord. I call this shaping around the chord. So you'll play, one easy way to do this is start on the lowest note, go up to maybe, well, we can arpeggiate, go to the third note, the fifth note, and then the octave, and then come back down. And we've sort of made this loop, ba 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 ba, and we kind of created a shape out of it now, right? Assuming that we're moving in time from left to right, and we rise and lower in pitch, we have a little hill. We've created a shape out of this. What we've done is still played the chord. In fact, a lot of chords, the power chord itself is the root, the fifth, and the octave. So we're just throwing a third in there as well. But instead of playing them all at the same time, you play one note at a time. And you can do all sorts of cool things with this. If sticking with the arpeggiation, root 3-5 octave, you can play root 5-3 octave 3-5 root, and you can kind of have this stepwise dancing thing going on. There's a lot of ways to do it. And the bigger your chord too, you have 6 strings, you can play 6 notes. Since you're playing individual notes, you can move your fingers to pick other notes that you can't hold down all at one time in it. There's lots of ways to do it, but the idea is to give the illusion of the chord so that as all the notes ring out, you're going to hear the full chord, just like if you had strummed them all together. But you play one at a time. And so we hear a lot of that in this middle section. It's still the idea of playing foundational ideas, of laying out the chord and the chord progression. It's just done so in something that feels more melodic. And actually, when we take the emphasized notes, because the guitars do pick some notes harder than others, we can actually get a feeling of a melody out of that slow moving rhythm. And so the whole section just ends up being really beautiful. It sets atmosphere, has a slow moving melody underneath it, and there's the foundation. It gives us our chord progression, all from just one instrument. We then get a lead melody out of the vocals, just a gorgeous idea that sits on top of and inside and all around what the guitars are doing. Was there bass here? I don't remember there being bass, but I was also completely fixated on the drums because this was just some gorgeous melodic drumming. I absolutely loved it. I think most of how I was feeling this section was in the drums and their rhythmic accentuation. They were playing pretty much every piece of the drum kit, all the toms, the cymbals, the snare and bass were used less often than usual as we were using the whole kit. You don't need to hit them as often. Especially coming off of the alternating bass and snare that we heard so much of in this track, it was nice to have something a bit more varied and dynamic as far as the timbres coming out of the drum kit. But it was also done in a way that created unique accent patterns. We were still in 4/4, but we weren't doing 1 and 3 or 2 and 4 or just 3. He was looking at the larger picture, right? Not just a 4-bar phrase, not just a 4-beat phrase that we can play on loop over and over, but what about an 8-beat phrase? What about a 16-beat phrase? And I think most of the stuff in here was working on a full 4-bar idea. And so it feels very lengthy, and that gives it more of a melodic idea to it. It isn't just a small looped rhythm that we can hear over and over. It feels linear in a lot of ways. If you're paying attention to it, it's not hard to pick up on the loop, but the loop takes a long time before you start the idea over. 4 bars. That's pretty lengthy in the world of drums. And so all these ideas just come together in a beautiful way. And it's set to some harmonies that are just gorgeous as well. The chords that are being picked, there's a little bit of darkness to them. It isn't, bubblegum brightness pop stuff, but it is on the whole bright and beautiful. And then, of course, at the very end of the song, we get the return to the chorus, I think it is, but where there were gaps before in the vocal melody, we filled them in with vocals from the outside. They feel very close to me. They feel louder than anything else in the mix, but they are pushed to the outside channels, so you have this call and response between center channel vocals and outside. I'm curious what this is. The song's called Sublime Connection. A connection requires 2 points. Taking vocals at face value, it's like a conversation. If we look at this directly as voice, we do move into whale song afterwards. So, maybe communication isn't, maybe I'm not so far off with that assumption. But the idea of having a conversation, of having a connection with somebody else, requires 2 points. And I think it's awesome that by the end of this song, we have the 2 points of vocals taking turns like a conversation would. I don't know if that's necessarily the way they're going with this. Like I said, I'm really interested to see what the lyrics are about, but the concept is solid. We have the idea of connection in the title of the song, and there is a type of connection, a 2-point idea in the music as well. Now I'm curious what everyone else thinks of this though. Obviously, this isn't true cult black metal, so I'm thinking that black metal purists might find this to not be their cup of tea. But especially people in my boat, where black metal isn't necessarily something you enjoy generally, what do you think of this? This completely flew under my radar. I don't think Deadly Carnage showed up in the new music channel on Discord, which is where I get 80-90% of my album releases. And there's quite a few people who contribute to it from all sorts of walks. I mean, we get hip hop, we get electronic, we get metal, we get pop, rock. We get a pretty wide range of genres being presented. And, not all of it's popular, too. A lot of underground stuff, a lot of stuff that's only on Bandcamp. A lot of people have a lot of radars going on, and all of them sort of coalesce into this channel. And yet, something like this, I don't think showed up at all, which is one, just testament to the amount of music that comes out. No one can keep track of all of it. But I don't know where I was going after that. Yeah, there's just a lot of music coming out. But I'm also a little surprised because it is metal, and I feel like we cover most of the metal projects, big or small. Someone's got an ear to the ground about it. I kind of wish I had given this. I mean, I can still listen to it, right? It's not like, 2023 is over. I can't listen to anything from that year anymore. No, I can still give it a shot, but I'm kind of curious. This is one of those albums when I listen to it, I'm like, dang, this probably would have ended up in some sort of video for last year's recap. Maybe not necessarily in my top 10, but I could easily see this if the whole album is like this one track in the beautiful sound spheres category. Because it really is gorgeous, whether they're doing the blackened composition, all the 16th notes, the notes that they're picking though, the chords that they're playing through, it's beautiful. And then they bring things down and they explore less metalier sounds, but similar harmonic vibes, and those sections are just gorgeous. How long is this album? 38 minutes, a whole 8 songs. Yeah, see, I could do that. So yeah, I'm curious where everybody else sits. I'm gonna add this to my list. This album, dang, they're small too. Most of these tracks have less than 10,000 listens, and the band themselves only get 5,000 monthly listeners. Post black metal, doom metal, avant garde. Oh, there is a bassist, or at least there was a bassist. It was created by a bassist and a drummer coming together back in '05. I don't see a personnel list for this specific album though. I might look into that when I look into lyrics. Um, but yeah, let's speaking of, let's just dive into that. See what's going on there, because I'm still quite curious. Sometimes you come across some lyrics that you don't quite get, but you can feel. Right? You've been there. I'm sure most of us have. Like, I don't really understand what he's saying, but like I feel it. It makes me emotional. That kind of thing. I think that's going on here for me. It's I think it's a song about letting go of someone. My interpretation, probably because I am a parent, is letting go of your child once they've become an adult, allowing them to go out into the world and live their life and to pursue their wants and their passions. It says, "Swim, my dear, until you disappear in a deep blue sea. Swim, my dear, in a bluish black tear. You drown. Swim, my dear, I can feel words as waves, I can hear waves as words, and another wave, another phrase, another tide to you. A wave breaks only between the reefs to the ocean life you give." A lot of this song is about telling this person to go swim. The final 2 stanzas says, "You owe it to your soul. The ocean is your reflection, your passion, your smile, and your tear. And so you have to swim, my dear." It is. It's just a gorgeous way to end the track. It really is. But it's this understanding that I can't keep you to myself. You owe it to yourself to go out and explore. Now, the direct line here is that, the ocean. is everything that your soul needs. But the ocean, I think, is supposed to be reflective of the larger world. The ocean is vast, it has many depths, it's unexplored in many ways. It is, well, some could describe it as the unknown. We know of all the ocean, but we don't know all of the ocean, if that makes sense. And I think, again, coming from it at the perspective of a parent, we know what our child is going to do. They're going to grow, they're going to explore heartache, they're going to explore joy, love, finding their passions, learning about them, growing into them. We know that they're going to have ups and downs, but they need to go explore the world. They need to go do their own thing. They need to find their own way through life. They owe it to themselves to do that. We only have one life. It needs to be one that was worth lived. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. We don't know what the lows are going to look like. We don't know where life is going to take them. What kind of jobs or passions or careers or hobbies they'll take up. But they're going to do most of that in some capacity. It is a release of somebody into something unknown. And it's terrifying. A lot of what you do as a parent for a child is to protect them. And part of letting go is saying, you're on your own now. I'm still here as a safety net, but you're your own protector now. Go explore the world without me. And that is just, that's terrifying. And I kind of feel that in the music. There's a beauty to it. You've raised them, you've instilled them with whatever uh, characteristics and wisdom, emotional wisdom, intellectual wisdom, whatever street smart you can. It's up to them now, though. It's up to them to go explore the ocean that calls for them, and they have to do it alone. You can't go along with them on that journey. And so, like I said, there's a beauty to that. Knowing that you've raised them to the best of your ability and that they're adults now, ready to take the world on. And I think that's what the middle of the song is supposed to feel like to me. Really gorgeous section. But the rest of it, all the blast beats, the alternating bass and kick, the 16th note focus from the guitars, as beautiful as they are harmonically, there is a tension to them. It's a sonic assault. It creates anxiety in me, much as black metal does as well. I've always sort of attributed it to the sound of the genre, but maybe it's also just due to the frequency of attacks. Maybe there's something inherent to this song. Maybe it's not just the frequency of attacks, maybe it's also some of the mixed emotional components. It is gorgeous, but it also has a little bit of darkness to it. It is a real bittersweet moment to tell someone to go on without you, regardless of the circumstance, the relationship. But there's an understanding in it. I don't know if that's necessarily what they're going for. I still find sadness and fear and beauty and hope all in this track, and I think that mixed with the vague lyrics could really point to anything. but my read on it comes from that of a parent. And I think there's lines in here that support that. Those are my thoughts. Deadly Carnage's Sublime Connection. What did you think of this track? What is your take on the lyrics? What's your point of view, your perspective, your opinion on what this track is doing or what it's about? Put all that stuff down in the comment section, as well as any other comments you may have. I know I asked about your thoughts about just the music in general, if this is your jam or not. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today, but I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC. As usual, we're going to continue on with this week's theme, exploring songs with spectacular endings. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.